he'd go back in the cave, and so that was Harold's idea to, and so he and Theophany had to stuff the front of the cave with snow. So that's where we are, and they're with Skrymir. Is Graki here today? I don't see. Oh, Graki is.
Yes.
Good. Graki does such a great Skrymir. He's leading them to the big feed that let's see, what his name is Loki is hosting. So I don't know if people remember the other parts. Is Star here today? I don't see Star. We're going to need somebody to take one of the giant's parts that Star does. And not a very big part, but there might be more. And what about Christian? Is Christian here? He was for a while, but I don't see him today. His part's coming up, Hugi. That's the son of Utgard-Loki. And also another giant, Logi, was cast to be Rocky, but Rocky is too major of a character, so I wanted to give that small bit part to somebody else, because Loki and Logi, they actually are in a eating contest with each other. So let's see. Atlantia, do you want to be a giant today? Are you there?
Yes, I feel quite giantish today.
Well, you're a giant that gets to eat, and it gets an eating contest. And also, I have another, an old hag. Before the eating contest, there's the old hag with Ellie. And let's see, Laura Lila, what are you doing? Are you the narrator?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Laura 34. Will you be an old hag, Ellie?
Ooh, good one.
Laura, are you there?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I fell asleep. What did you ask me? What did you ask me?
Will you take the part of Ellie? She's an old hag, and when they get to Utgard-Loki's house on the mountain, he's hosting the big feed, and he's the big top-notch giant of the place. We're gonna meet a character named Ellie, and she's gonna wrestle Thor. So,
Sure. I'm up for wrestling. You bet.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Now, then Hugi is a runner, and Christian is not here. So, Muscle Park, I don't think I can have you. Utgard Loki is the head guy of this scene here, so you need to stay on him. But and Lost is Theophany. So I think, Vidir, do you have sound yet? Well, when we get closer to the time, Hugi just has, these are just has a few words, and so whoever feels like a runner, maybe between Atlantia and Laura, one of you feel like you could be a runner too?
Sure.
Okay.
A runner. You bet.
Yeah. Okay, great.
And do you know my giant's name? Do you know who I'm doing?
Yes, you're Logi, Logi.
Oh,
That's
okay,
your
thank you.
giant. Yeah,
Thank
and you get introduced by Utgard Loki, who is Muspel's-Park. Muspel's-Park, how's your sound today?
Just good a second ago. We had
Can you move up a little bit? Or turn up your sound?
Huh?
I'm not hearing you very well.
Thanks.
It's kind of good.
Which chapter are we on?
Chapter 6.
Okay. And what's
I
the
actually,
first line?
Page 39. Page 39. It's right at the top.
yeah, and I don't know how far we're going to go because I haven't figured that out, and I wasn't given any direction. So we're going to just go for a while, and hopefully Vadir will keep checking on her to see if she's going to come in for birds of a feather. And maybe we might save that to last and start Norton Street, since Vidal is here with his jar, and I think everybody has their Norton Street script, right, that wanted to read. So, and Lost, are you here yet? Lost, the Offie. Well, why don't we call people up? Vida and Laura Lila and Rocky and I'm Thor. And hopefully Lost will come pretty soon. Good, Graki, excellent. Our guide, Skrymir, he's and Muspel Spark, good. You're Utgard, Loki, and Laura, you're gonna be Ellie and Hughie, and Atlantia, you'll be Logi, Logi, L-O-G-I. I don't know how you'd say that. Who's the
Logi.
Logi? Okay. Oh, good. Lost is with us, so we have our Theophy. He's not quite on the stage yet, but that's okay. And I hope everybody has their mics. And can we hear you, Lost? Do you need to go out and come back? Have you been in too long? Sometimes that is a disadvantage.
Yeah, it does have a dot.
Well, yeah, those dots are, I think sometimes they're an illusion.
Hi.
Little dotty.
Oh,
Can you hear
good,
me?
good. Okay, great.
I'm having terrible lag is the problem.
Okay, but we can hear you, so that's the most important thing. Okay. So I think we're ready to start, aren't we?
Okay, I'm ready.
Everybody has the beginning of chapter 6. When Shay awoke, that's they've just they've slept out in front of that cave with the snow and protected from the dragon. Okay.
Okay. When Shay awoke, he was still sniffling, but at least his head was of normal weight. He wondered whether the chlorine he had inhaled the previous evening might not have helped the cold, or whether the improvement were a general one based on his determination to accept his surroundings and make the most of them. After breakfast, they set out as before, Skrymir tramping on ahead. The sky was the color of old lead. The wind was keen, rattling the branches of the scrubby trees and whirling an occasional snowflake before it. The goats slipped on patches of frozen slush, plodding uphill most of the time. The hills were all about them now, rising steadily and with more vegetation, mostly pine and spruce. It must have been around noon, Shay could only guess at the time, when Skrymir turned and waved at the biggest mountain they had yet seen. The wind carried away the giant's words, but Thor seemed to have understood. The goats quickened their pace toward the mountain, whose top hung in cloud. After a good hour of climbing, Shay began to get a glimpse of a shape looming up from the bare crest, intermittently blotted out by the eddies of mist. When they were close enough to see it plainly, it became clearly a house, not unlike that of the bonder, Sverre, but it was cruder, made of logs with the bark on, and vastly bigger, as big as a metropolitan railroad terminal. Thialfi said in his ear.
That will be Utgard Castle. You'll need whatever might of courage you have here, you friend Harold.
The young man's teeth were chattering from something other than cold. Scriber lurched up to the door and pounded on it with his fist. He stood there for a long minute, the wind flapping his furs. A rectangular hole opened in the door swung open, the chariot riders climbed down, stretching their stiff muscles as they followed their guide. The door banged shut behind them. They were in a dark vestibule, like that in Sverre's house, but larger and foul with the odor of unwashed giant. A huge arm pushed the leather curtain aside, revealing through the triangular opening a view of roaring yellow flame and thronging, snouting giants. Delphi murmured,
Keep your eyes open, Harold. As Theodulf of Finn says, all the gateways ere one goes out, thoughtfully should a man scan. Uncertain it is where sits the unfriendly upon the bench before thee.
Within, the place was a disorderly parody of Sverre's. Of the same general form, with the same benches, its tables were all uneven, filthy, and littered with fragments of food. The fire in the center hung a pall of smoke under the rafters. The dirty straw on the floor was thick about the ankles. The benches and the passageway behind them were filled with giants, drinking, eating, shouting at the tops of their voices. Before him, a group of 6 with iron-gray topknots and patchy beards like Scribner's were wrangling. One drew back his arm in anger. His elbow struck a mug of mead, borne by a harassed-looking man who was evidently a thrall. The mead splashed onto the other giant, who instantly snatched up a bowl of stew from the table and slammed it on the man's head. Down went the man with a squeal. Skrymir calmly kicked him from the path of his guests. The 6 giants burst into bubbling laughter, rolling in their seats and clapping each other on the back, their argument forgotten.
Hi, Skridbodnir.
Skrymir was gripping another giant on the bench by the arm.
How's every little thing with you? Come here, I want you to meet a friend of mine. This here guy's Asathor.
Scribe Goldnar turned. She noticed that he was slenderer than Skrymir, with ash blonde hair, the pink eyes of an albino, and a long, red, ulcerated nose.
He's a frost giant. And that gang over there are fire giants.
He waved a trembling hand toward the other side of the table, where a group of individuals, like taller, straighter gorillas, were howling at each other. They were shorter than the other giants, not much more than 8 feet tall. They had prognathous jaws and coarse black hair where their bodies were exposed. They scratched ceaselessly. Halfway down the hall, at one side, sat the biggest hill giant of all, in a huge chair with interwoven serpents carved on the legs and arms. His costume was distinguished from those of the other giants in that the bone skewers through his topknot had rough gold knobs on their ends. One of his lower snagged teeth projected for several inches beyond his upper lip. He looked at Skrymir and said,
Hi, bud. I see you got some kids with you. It ain't a good idea to bring kids to these feeds. They learns bad language.
They ain't kids. They're a couple of men and a couple of Aesir. I told them they could come with me. That's okay, boss?
Utgarloki picked his nose and wiped his fingers on his greasy leather vest before replying.
I guess so. But ain't that one with the red whiskers Asathor?
Thor?
Sorry, I had a phone call. You are not mistaken.
Well, you don't say so. I always thought Thor was a big, husky guy.
Thor stuck out his chest, scowling.
It is ill to jest with the Aesir giant.
Oh, ain't he the cutest little fella?
Utgarloki paused to capture a small, creeping thing that had crawled out of his left eyebrow and crack it between his teeth.
A fair arrangement. They live on him. He lives on them.
But what you doing here, you? This is a respectable party, see? And I don't want no trouble.
I have come for my hammer, Mjolnir.
Huh? What makes you think we got it?
Ask not of the tree where it got its growth, or of the gods their wisdom. Will you give it up, or do I have to fight you for it?
Don't be like that, Oglethorpe. Sure, I'd give you your piddling nutcracker if I knew where it was.
Nutcracker, why you?
Easy, son of Odin. With the strongest of strength, with the liar lies.
He turned to Utgard the Loki and bowed mockingly.
Chief of Giants, we thank you for your courtesy, and will not trouble you long. Trusting your word, Lord, are we to understand that Mjolnir is not here?
Tain't here as far as I know.
Replied Utgard the Loki, sitting on the floor and rubbing his bare foot over the spot. It's just a hint of uneasiness.
Might it not have been brought hither without your knowledge?
How the hell should I know? I said as far as I knew. This is a hell of a way to come at your host.
Evidently, there is no objection should the desire come upon us to search the place.
Huh. You're damn right there's objections. This is my joint, and I don't let no foreigners go sniffing around.
Greatest of the Jotun, your objection is but natural with one who knows his own value. But the gods do not idly speak. We believe Mjolnir is here, and have come in peace to ask for it, rather than in arms, with Odin and his spear at our head, Heimdall and his great sword, and Olja's deadly bow. Now you shall let us search for the hammer, or we will go away and return with them to make you such feasting as you will not soon forget. But if we fail to find it, we will depart in all peace. This is my word.
And mine.
Thor knitted his brows. Beside him, Shay noticed Thialfi's face go the color of skimmed milk, and was slightly surprised to find himself unafraid. But that may be because I don't understand the situation, he told himself. Utgard the Loki scratched thoughtfully, his lips working.
Tell you what. You Aesir are sporting gents, aren't you?
Yes, it is not to be denied that we enjoy sports.
I'll make you a sporting proposition. You think you are great athletes. Well, we got pretty tough babies here too. We'll have some games. And if you beat us at even one of them, see, I'll let you go ahead and search. If you lose, out you get.
What manner of games?
Well, Sonny, anything you want.
Thor's face had gone thoughtful.
I am not unknown as a wrestler.
All right. We'll find someone to wrestle you down. Can you do anything else?
I will meet your best champion at eating, and our man Thialfi here will run a race with you. Asa Thor will also undertake any trial of strength you care to hold.
Swell. Me, I think these games are kid stuff, see. But it ought be fun for some of the gang to see you take your licking. Ha! Bring Ellie up here. Here's a punk that wants to wrestle.
With a good deal of shouting and confusion, a space was cleared near the fire in the center of the hall. Thor stood with fists on hips, waiting the giant's champion. There came forward, not a giant, but a tall, old woman. She was at least 100, a hunched bag of bones covered by thin, almost transparent skin, as wrinkled as the surface of a file.
What matter of jest is this, Utgard Loki? It is not to be said that Asa Thor wrestles with a woman.
Oh, don't worry none, kid. She likes it. Don't you, Ellie?
Yep. But many's the good man I put down, yeah? Yeah?
But
You ain't scared to work.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You ain't scared to work up a reputation, are you? Huh. Thor afraid? Not of what the giant Kinder can do.
Thor puffed out his chest.
I gotta explain the rules.
Utgard the Loki put a hand on the shoulder of each contestant and muttered at them. Shay felt his arm pinched and looked into the bright eyes of Loki.
Great and evil is the magic in this place, and I misdoubt me we are to be tricked, for never have I heard of such wrestling. But it may be that the spells they use are spells against gods alone, and not for the eyes of men. Now I have here a spell against spells, and while these contests go forward, you shall take it.
He handed Shay a piece of very thin parchment covered with spidery runic writing.
Repeat it forward, then backward, then forward again, looking as you do at the object you suspect of being an illusion. It may be you will see on the wall the hammer we seek.
Wouldn't the giants hide it away, sir?
Not with their boasting and vainglorious habit.
All right. Go.
Thor, roaring like a lion, seized Ellie as though he intended to dash her brains out on the floor. But Ellie might have been nailed where she was. Her rickety frame did not budge. Thor fell silent, wrenching at the crone's arms and body. He turned purple in the face from the effort. The giants around murmured appreciatively. Shay glanced at the slip Loki had given him. The words were readable, though they seemed to consist of meaningless strings of syllables. Nye, Midi, Nordri, Sudri, Austri, Vestri, Altgruff, Dvalin. He obediently repeated it according to the directions, looking at a giant's club that hung on the wall. It remained a giant's club. He turned back to the wrestling, where Thor was puffing with effort, his forehead beaded with sweat.
which?
Thor shouted at last and seized her arm to twist it. Ellie caught his neck with her free hand. There was a second scuffle, and Thor skidded away, falling to one knee.
That's enough. That counts as a fall. Ellie wins. I guess it's a good job you didn't try to wrestle with any of the big guys here, eh, Thor, old kid?
The other giants roared in approval that drowned Thor's growl.
All right, you. Stand back. Get back, I say, or I'll cut the blood eagle on a couple of you. Next event's an eating contest. Bring Logie up here. We got some eating for him to do.
A fire giant shuffled through the press. His black hair had a reddish tinge, and his movements were quick and animal-like.
Is it lunchtime yet? Them 3 elk I ate for breakfast just kinda got my appetite going.
Utgard the Loki explained and introduced him to his opponent.
Pleased to meet ya. I always like to see a guy what appreciates good food. Say, you ought to come down to Muspelheim sometime. We got a cook there what knows how to roast a whale right. He uses charcoal fire and bastes it with bear grease.
That'll do, Loki. You get that guy talking about the meals he's at, and he'll talk till the time comes.
Shay was pushed back by the giants as they crowded in. An enemy of the crowd carried him still farther away from the scene of action as the giants made way for a little procession of harried-looking slaves. These bore 2 huge wooden platters, on each of which rested an entire roasted elk haunch. Shay stood on tiptoe and stretched. Between a pair of massive shoulders, he glimpsed Utgard the Loki taking his place at the middle of a long table, at each end of which sat one of the contestants. A shoulder moved across Shay's field of vision, and he glanced at the owner. It was a comparatively short giant, who bulged out in the middle to make up for his lack of stature. A disorderly mop of black and white hair covered his head, but the thing that struck Shay was that as the giant turned profile to watch the eaters, the eye that looked from under the piebald thatch was bright blue. That was wrong. Fire giants, as he had noted, had black eyes. Hill giants had gray or black eyes, frost giants pink. Of course, this giant might have a trace of some other blood, but there was a familiar angle to that long, high-bridged nose, and something funny-looking about the mop of hair. "Heimdall!" Shay whispered behind his hand.
How many mothers did you have, giant with the uncombed thatch?
He heard a low chuckle, and the answer came back.
Thrice 3, man, from an unknown world. But there is no need to shout. I can hear your lightest whisper, even your thoughts half formed.
I think we're being tricked.
Continued Shay. He didn't say it even in a whisper this time, merely thought it, moving his lips. The answer was pat.
That is what was to be expected, and for no other reason did I come hither. Yet I have not solved the nature of the spells.
I've been taught a spell.
And remembered Heimdall's enmity to Loki and all his works just in time to keep from mentioning Uncle Fox.
Which may be of use in such a case.
Then use it while you watch the contest.
All right, ready. You two. Go.
The giant gave a shout. Shay, his eyes fixed on Loki, was repeating, "Ni, Niddy, Nordri, Sudri." The sly god bounced on his oversized chair as he applied his teeth to the elk haunch. The meat was disappearing in hunks the size of a man's fist at the rate of 2 hunks per second. Shay had never seen anything like it and wondered where Loki was putting it all. He heard Thjalfi's voice, thin in the basso profundo clamor of the giants.
Besit yourself, son of Laufey.
Then the bone, the size of a baseball bat, was clean. Loki dropped it clattering to the platter and sat back with a sigh. A whoop went up from the assembled giants. Shay saw Loki start forward again, the eyes popping from his head. Utgard the Loki walked to the opposite end of the table. He bellowed.
Loki wins.
Shay turned to look at the other contestant, but his head bumped a giant's elbow so violently that he saw stars. His eyes beaded with tears. For one fleeting second, he saw no Logi there at all, only a great leaping flame at the opposite end of the table. A flicker. The teardrop was gone, and with it the picture. Logi sat contentedly at the other end of the table, and Loki was crying.
He finished no sooner than myself.
Yeah, Sonny boy, but he ate the bone in the platter, too. I said Logi wins.
I'm go.
Shay said it so loud that the guy thrust a hand toward him. Fortunately, the uproar around drowned his voice.
It is a trick, an illusion. Loki's a flame.
Now, good luck go with your eyes. No warlock and warlock. Warn Asa Thor and use your spell on whatever you can see, for it is more than ever important that the hammer be found. Surely these tricks and sleights must mean that the time is even nearer than we think, and the giants are desirous not to see that weapon in the hands of Redbeard. Go.
Utgard Loki, posted on the table where the eating contest had been held, was directing the clearing of the section of the hall.
The next event is a foot race. You, shrimp.
Utgard Loki pointed at Thialfi.
You're going to run against my son, Hugi. Where is that young half-wit? Hugi!
Here I am, Pop.
A gangling adolescent giant wormed his way to the front. He had little forehead and less chin and a crop of pimples the size of poker chips.
You want me to run against him? He.
Hughie drooled down his chin as he laughed. Shay ducked and dodged, squeezed through toward Thor, who was frowning with concentration as he watched the preparation for the race. Thialfi and the drooling Hughie placed themselves at one end of the hall.
Go!
And they raced for the far end of the hall, a good 300 yards away. Thialfi went like the wind, but Hughie went like a bullet. By the time Thialfi had reached the far end, his opponent was halfway back.
Hugi wins first heat. It's 2 out of 3.
The crowd loosened a little as the contestants caught their breath. Shay found himself beside Thor and Loki.
Hey, Turnip Harold. Where have you been?
It is more like anything else that has been concealed under a table like a mouse.
Shay was too full of his news to resent anything.
They're trying to put over tricks on you, on us. All these contests are illusions.
He could see Thor's lips curl.
Your warlock can see deeper into a millstone than most.
No, but I mean it, really.
Hugi had just passed them to take his place for the second heat, the hall's huge central fire on the other side.
Look, that runner of theirs, he casts no shadow.
Thor glanced, and his comprehension spread across his features, turned purple. But just then Utgard Loki cried,
Go!
And the second race was on. It was a repetition of the first. Utgard Loki announced over a delighted uproar that Hugi was the winner.
I am to pick up their damn cat next. If that be another trick of theirs, I'll...
Not so loudly. Soft and slow is the sly fox taken. Now, Thor, you shall try this cat lifting as though nothing were amiss. But Harold here, who is only half subject to their spells, because he is a mortal and without fear, shall search for Mjolnir. Youngling, you are our hope and stay. Use the spell I gave you.
Okay, this is where we're going to quit. Because this is the cliffhanger. And we've used up all our characters. and we want to start Norton's.
Good stopping place.
You guys are fantastic in your characterizations. It's just spectacular. Such a pleasure. Okay, Vidaf, you got the floor. You can give us any intro you want.
I think today we'll use a short intro. So I have a jar with the names of everybody who replied to the email, indicating that they were interested in participating. So if any